Yo, what is up guys, and welcome to another Wild Rift video. And in today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys a tier list for every single role in the game. I haven't done a tier list video for 1.5 months. My new approach of tier list is I don't want to make videos every single week or 2 weeks on it. I want to do it like more on a monthly basis. And this time I actually waited even longer. It changed a lot. Like, obviously it changed a lot. And there's a lot of these secret, hidden picks, you could say. And I always incorporate them in this tier list. Like, I'm not only putting the popular picks, you know, high up that are good. Like, for example, Vladimir is a popular pick that everyone knows is very good, right? But there's going to be a champion like a Cannon, for example, who I think is insanely powerful and incredibly underrated. I'm going to be talking about why I think all of that in every single role. You can find timestamps in the description if you just want to scout through the tier list. But before we get into the tier list, just a quick word from the video sponsor. Enlisted is a new kind of first-person shooter that uniquely couples PvP with PvE combat. You'll take command of customizable AI soldiers and fight in massive battles with hundreds of targets led by other players. On top of that, Enlisted also offers multiple campaigns to play through, featuring their own unique weapons, vehicles and equipment. It goes from the outskirts of Moscow in 1941 all the way to the heart of Berlin in 1945. Enlisted is hardcore where it matters. You have a very short time to kill for inventory and realistic damage models for vehicles that make battles intense, immersive and a lot of fun. Enlisted has unique soldier classes with individual skills that can be customized, equipped and upgraded. From riflemen with bolt action rifles to SMG wielding engineers building anti-tank fortifications. I am a huge fan of the SMG wielding builders as they are very powerful in close combat while also being able to provide great utility to the team. Play Enlisted now for free on PC, Xbox or PlayStation using my link in the description. There will be a bonus pack waiting for you if you register through my link. Alright, so let's get started. The one and most obvious broken tier, and I want you guys to be guessing which champions are also going to be on the broken tier. There are a few more champions in the broken tier, and I want you guys to put a guess in the comments. Let's see if you can get it right. Put a guess. Yuumi doesn't count. We all know Yuumi is broken tier. But there are a few more champions in the broken tier. Put your guess in the comments and see what you do. I'm also doing a skin giveaway. So all you have to do is put down a comment under the video giving away 3 skins. So Aatrox, the most obvious broken tier in the Baron lane. This champion is disgusting. Like, he's disgusting. He does fine in the early game, and we all know, like, mid game he's unstoppable. Now when you get to like the super late game, he is beatable, I would say, because at that point everyone is gonna have, you know, like 35% magic resist, they're gonna have the armor penetration, they're gonna have the black cleavers, etc, etc. But like when you are in that mid game, that's the moment where he's just unbearable. You cannot deal with him, especially if you combine him with like an enchanter support. You just cannot. You cannot stop him. If you play a good Aatrox, like if you're able to land a few of your abilities, enemies just cannot deal with you. He's also one of the best turret divers because when you get a kill, he heals up like crazy. He heals and he resets his passive, which in my opinion is just disgusting. It's basically like playing Riven, but an upgraded Riven. And an upgraded Riven that heals a lot as well. It's ridiculous how strong he is. Absolutely ridiculous. So if you want to pick up Aatrox ever, this is your moment. You're gonna get free wins left and right with Aatrox. Another champion that almost made it to the broken tier, and I was so close to putting him there, is Vladimir. What can I say, guys? He wins every lane easily. Almost every lane in the Baron lane. I'm talking Baron lane here. Mid lane, it's a different story. But in the Baron lane, he can pretty much win every lane easily because he does so well into these melee champions. Like, he even does well into Aatrox. He does super well into them because you can just very easily bully them with your first ability. And when they choose to go all in on you, you just use your second ability. If they turret dive you, you ult and your second ability. You want to turret dive them, you ult and your second ability. He has tools for everything. Early game, like, he can survive easily. He survives ganks because he has this second ability. And then late game, we all know late game Vladimir, he absolutely 1v9s the game. So this guy doesn't really have any weaknesses in the Baron lane. I want to repeat, in the Baron lane, because his weakness could potentially be like a bullying ranged champion, like an Orianna, for example, that is gonna skill with him and is gonna be bullying him really hard in the lane. But obviously, you're not gonna see Orianna in the Baron lane. Another champion, I keep talking about him, but it's Set, guys. This champion is disgusting as well. You should check out my recent Set video. I made a Set video I think like a month ago or 1.5 months ago. Just look up HellsDevil Set, and I'll teach you everything about Set you need to know in that video. It's ridiculous how powerful he is. Like, in the lane, you know, you may think his kit is a little bit weak in the lane, and while it's true, his passive compensates for all of it. His passive heals him up. passively. So when you're super low HP, it heals him even more. So essentially, if you trade with the enemy, even if you lose the trade, at the end of the day, you're gonna end up winning it because you will heal up. You'll heal up. Like, you'll heal up a lot. It's crazy how much he heals up. And enemies cannot turret dive you easily because you have your ultimate third ability, second ability to tank everything, and you can turret dive very well. Late game, he's an absolute monster. Monster of a frontliner, damage dealer, everything. He also shreds through tanks with his second ability as it does full true damage. What else do you need from a champion, guys? What else? You tell me. You don't need anything. So next up we got Gwen. And Gwen is a bit of a funny one because she got buffed. And the buff definitely feels very strong on her. She was already quite strong. And I wouldn't say she's like, you know, broken tier. Not even close to broken tier. But she's just comfortably sitting in the S+ tier. Very, very powerful against tanks. And even does well into squishier champions. And the good thing is she can very easily proc the... what is that item called? Not the Edge of Night, the Crown of the Shattered Queen. Simply with her ultimate. Just hit your ult once on an enemy and you proc the crown already. So you can also proc that very easily and all in that enemy quite easily. Garen. Ornn. So Ornn, he used to be broken tier, but they did nerf him a little bit. They nerfed and nerfed and nerfed him. But he's still comfortably sitting in the S+ tier. And that's because his kit is just so strong. And not only that, so this is solo queue, but especially if you're playing him duo queue with your jungler, I would consider him broken tier. Like, this is a solo queue tier list, but I'm saying if you play duo queue with your jungler, he is gonna be broken tier. For one simple reason, which is his passive. So if you play duo queue with a jungler, you can simply just buy items with your jungler, and then he's going to be able to buy items in the map. Now, can you imagine playing with a Lee Sin? Lee Sin who doesn't have any mana. You give him your passive, and Lee Sin simply never has to go back. Lee Sin can keep ganking, keep snowballing, and all he has to do is just come to your lane, you build an item next to him, and he can keep building items while he's on the map. He's never going to run out of mana too. So you know what I mean? Like, if you combine him with a jungler that doesn't really need any mana, he's broken tier. He's broken tier. But of course, in solo queue, that's not going to happen often. Like, Aatrox is another example, right? Like, if you play Aatrox jungle with an Ornn in your top lane, and you're playing duo queue, you just have to give the Aatrox an item, you know, buy an item, let him buy 5 items in base, and you're going to be fine. He never has to go back. Never. You know, literally never. Next up is Pantheon. Pantheon is so strong. So strong. And the funny thing is, I'm talking about like anti-squishy Pantheon, you know, where you go for like Essence Reaver and Lethality. But you can also incorporate a Blade of the Rune King with that build. And the funny thing is, even tanks, you're not one-shotting, of course, but you will destroy them. Like, obviously, you know, he's not very high up in the S+ tier, and the only reason would be is because he cannot easily beat these bruisers, because bruisers are his counter. You know, those are his counter. Like, you know, if you jump on a Garen, obviously you're not gonna outtrade him. He's just gonna silence you. Third ability. He's gonna use his second ability. He's gonna outtrade you, you know. But if you jump on a Yone, for example, easy outtrade, right? So you're basically gonna be able to outtrade everyone except your opponent in lane, and that is why I've put him a little bit lower in the S+ tier. But he's so strong that he's still in the S+ tier. That's basically the explanation to it. I'm not gonna go over every champion, by the way, because then this video would be 2 hours long. I'll talk about the main champions in this tier list. Gragas is just Gragas, you know, full AP Gragas. He actually feels significantly weaker than he always used to be. I've always put him, literally always put him either in the broken tier or like high up in the S+ tier. This is one of the only times I've actually put him in the bottom S+ tier, which still means he's very strong, don't get me wrong. But I honestly feel like he cannot solo carry games anymore, and one of the main reasons would be the Crown of the Shattered Queen. It's a cliche answer, right? Like, it's again, the Crown of the Shattered Queen. It counters him so hard, because the way you used to play Gragas is you just dive their backline, and whoever it is, you just one-shot. They have no chance. But since they have a Crown of the Shattered Queen, first of all, it will block your stun. Secondly, it makes them pretty much unkillable for like 1.5 seconds. So it ain't gonna work anymore, unfortunately, this Gragas playstyle that I always used to play. Yone top lane. The good thing about Yone, you got Blade of the Rune King and you beat all the bruisers. You just beat them. Like, you have to get that Blade of the Rune King. Before that, you don't win. So before that, you can really get abused. But after your Blade of the Rune King, even if you're a little bit behind in the game, you should be able to actually outtrade a lot of the champions. Like a Garen should be an easy matchup. Set is a little bit different, but Aatrox, you can even play well into Aatrox, you know what I mean? Like, you'll be fine against all these bruisers just by building one item, which is that Blade of the Rune King. Super, super powerful. Darius with the buff, very strong in the Baron lane, although he still feels a bit meh. He's very, very strong, but requires incredibly high skill to play well. So I've put him in the bottom S+ tier. You know, he's just chilling there. He's good. Sion, I mean, inting Sion strategy works just as well as always. And if you haven't seen my video on that already, look up HellsDevil inting Sion. It's a very popular video on my channel, and it will teach you exactly how to properly play an inting Sion. How you can carry games with 13 deaths. Like, no joke, that is the best way to play him. So, you know, you want to learn how to proxy farm, you want to learn how to take all the inhibs, you want to learn how to be a proper split pusher with Ornn while also rotating to your team. Look up that video. That's all I can say. Like, I can explain to you here, but in that video, I go into full details with it. And now we come with our first secret hidden pick, which is Cannon. I told you guys in the Cannon video, and if you haven't seen it already, I uploaded a Cannon video like a week ago. This champion is insanely powerful. Insanely powerful. I do think he's better in the mid lane, but I've put him in the high S tier in the Baron lane, because in the later stages of the game, this is like, it's like a fiddlesticks. It's like fiddlesticks, literally fiddlesticks, but it's a bit different. Fiddlesticks with a little bit of a better 1v1, you know, because he can stun, he can bully those bruisers as well. That's what makes him so good. He can bully the bruisers because he has range, right? And you can go for the brutal rune. Again, you need to check out my video for full details on this, but you can go for certain runes that really allows you to bully enemies in lane. And then of course, late game, you're going to destroy the enemy. The only weakness he has is tanks. You don't want to pick him into a composition with a lot of tanks. You generally want to pick him into a composition with a lot of squishies, because you're going to one-shot them with your ult. You're going to destroy them. So that's the reason I've put him in a lower, like a, not S+, because in a tank and bruiser meta, he doesn't really do that well. But if you have the right draft for him, which is, you know, a lot of squishies and maybe like a bruiser or two, you're going to destroy them. Fiora, one of the best split pushes in the game. I'm not going to talk too much about Fiora. She's just okay. Camille's also okay. Akali is fine. But again, she's very, very strong. Don't get me wrong, but she just doesn't really win easily against those bruisers. She has a bit of a hard time against those bruiser types of champions, which makes a little bit of a questionable champion in the Baron lane. Definitely playable. You know, S tier is good. Like, I want you guys to understand, B tier is like, you know, a little below average. A tier I would consider average, and anything above A tier is like strong. S tier is strong, just remotely strong, and S+ tier is what would like actually really powerful champions. These are like the really, really powerful champions. C tier is basically you don't want to play it. D tier is yeah, don't even look at the D tier. That's what it says. So yeah, Irelia, I feel like she's strong. I feel like Irelia would be here if everyone mastered Irelia, but that's the thing. No one mastered Irelia, right? She's one of the, if not maybe even the hardest champions to properly master. And, you know, in before Riot actually changes her entire kit and makes it easier, she's insanely hard to play. So if you are actually good at Irelia, this is not an accurate placement, I would place her here. But for the average player, you know, trying to get into Irelia, she's still very strong. Like, if you're just a little good with Irelia, she's like bottom S tier. She can carry games, but you're gonna be missing out on a lot of kills because you fail your combos, basically. And then still with failed combos, she's like bottom S tier. Going to the A tier, Renekton, he feels a little bit underwhelming. Even though they buffed him, he does feel a little bit underwhelming. What can I say? And anyone else here, Wukong, I don't know why. I always used to put Wukong as plus tier, but now he actually somehow feels quite weak. I actually don't really know why. I tried to figure it out. I've been thinking about it for a long time, but I couldn't figure it out. He just feels weak. He just feels not weak, but weaker than before. He can definitely still do very well, but it's just he's not like how he used to be before. But they didn't touch him at all, so I don't really get why. But I'm rating him based on how strong he is. Kill, I would only pick Kill Baron lane if I'm duo queuing with my jungler, and my jungler is picking a diving champion like an Aatrox, like a Riven, like a Volibear. Combine that with a Baron lane kill, that's insanely powerful. Yeah, so never pick kill if your team needs a tank. Never. You always want to pick like a bruiser or a tank in a Baron lane. But as I said, or a Vi, for example. If you have a Vi jungle and you know it's like a decent player, you can pick kill Baron lane. And in the later stages of the game, you're always going to ult your jungler. And like it's immensely powerful. Immensely powerful. Teemo sucks. Jace, I'm not a fan of. Malphite, I'm also not very much of a fan of. And anyone here, you don't really want to be playing too much. So onto the jungle. And here we have two more champions in the broken tier. I hesitated a lot about this guy. Wait, about Pantheon, but I've put him there. First, let's talk about Kha'Zix though. Kha'Zix, I mean, Against squishies, it's game over. And against tanks, you can also play against them because you can just go Black Cleaver and Cerule's Grudge. And you will still do a lot of damage. And even against tanks, you're still able to assassinate the squishies. Like, your team goes in, you go in and you assassinate them. Against squishies, you're gonna one-shot them. Like, besides that, right? Like, you're literally gonna one-shot the squishies. But even against a tankier matchup, you just let your team do a little bit of damage. And then once that tank is sitting at like 30% health, you catch them off and you kill them as well. And you go in and you go out. His ult also allows him to escape easily or engage easily. He has all the tools he needs to be a proper assassin jungler. And now another dude, the absolute most masculine man in Wild Rift, the man we all aspire to be, it's Pantheon. The Greek god or the Roman god? Not sure which one it is exactly, but this is what we all aspire to be. And there is a reason for it, because he's in the broken tier. This guy doesn't need to play like a cockroach, like the Kazakhs. This guy doesn't need to wait for your team to go in. This guy takes the sword himself and he goes in balls deep, sticks his knife right through Kai'Sa's heart and rips it out, puts it in his mouth, you know, the blood. He tastes the blood of Kai'Sa's heart and shows to the entire enemy team that he has zero fear. And he killed Kai'Sa just like that. You jump in, instant first ability, stick your knife into them, your spear into them. It's not a knife, it's a spear, a manly spear. And don't even let them breathe. Don't even let them breathe. When they see the eyes of Pantheon, that's their last breath. That's their last breath. When they enter hell, that's the last thing they remember. The red eyes of Pantheon, the eyebrows that were looking so angry, so he was looking for blood, just pure fear in their system. It even goes to the afterlife of the enemies. And that is the reason I've put Pantheon in the broken tier. Very, very powerful jungler. Everything. He has everything. Literally everything. Early game power, yes. Early game ganking. Fast jungle clear. A global ultimate to jump everywhere. A shield that makes him invulnerable for almost 2 seconds. Late game power. Everything. In his kit, he has a percentage armor penetration. What? You tell me what else you need from a champion. You tell me. Because there is nothing else. You know, the only thing you could possibly be missing is sustain damage. But why would you need sustain damage when you've already killed the enemy? You know what I mean? So that would... I was thinking about all of that. And immediately I wanted to go to the gym again. So for that reason, I put him in the broken tier. Next up, we got Lee Sin. I'm always a bit hesitant and a bit reluctant? Is it reluctant? Reluctant meaning unwilling. Oh yeah, it's the right word. Oh my god, reluctant. Look at me, reluctant. I was always a bit reluctant by putting him high up. It means hesitant, but it's a bit more fancy. The reason being is because Lee Sin has always been a champion where you can kind of, you know, carry the game early game. Sure, you can gank. He's literally the strongest early game ganker. There's not a single jungler that's stronger at ganking early game than him. But then if you get to the later game, you know, we're talking old Lee Sin right here. You couldn't really carry the game. You couldn't really do much anymore, right? Like, you get your teammates ahead. Sure, it's incredibly valuable, but in a solo queue game, can you really trust your teammates to carry you? The answer is no. And that's why I had always put him like a little bit lower into the S plus tier, even at some point in the S tier. But then they did that massive nerf on Lee Sin. That unbelievable nerf. We all remember which nerf, right? To all of his abilities. They nerfed buff. They buffed every single ability. That big buff. I said nerf, but I meant buff. Everything got buffed. And now he's, of course, even stronger early game. And in the late game, he's still, you know, not the best late game champion, but he can carry in the late game. You know, we've all played against the level 15 Lee Sin, and even if you're like full build, somehow he can still one-shot you, right? Like, if you're playing a squishy champion, he's still gonna one-shot you. And that's the new Lee Sin. That's how strong the new Lee Sin is, and that's what makes him a very, very powerful champion right now, and definitely one you should be picking up right now in solo queue. Evelynn, on the other hand, is a complete opposite. She's unbelievably strong late game, very, very strong mid game as well. And there is no real early game, because in the early game, you just take the first rotation of your jungle, you get level 5 with a full rotation, and you've already entered the mid game, right? She has one of the best ganks in the game. She cannot gank as frequent as Lee Sin, because she does need her ultimate to gank properly. But her ganks are very strong, very, very successful rate of ganking. Like, you just gank an enemy, you ult them, you kill them, right? And then you go next. And in the late game, you just one-shot everyone, right? You literally one-shot everyone. Kayn Yet again, this champion, you just gotta get his passive. I'm talking blue Kayn. If we were talking about red Kayn, I would place him here. I would place him here. Yeah, this is probably the perfect placement. But blue Kayn, I would place him over here, like third place on the S plus tier. Reason being, you know, you can literally go through walls. I mean, which champion can go through walls? Camille can, but you cannot do it as easily as Kayn. You can just traverse through the map, through the walls, one-shot their backline, ult if you need to, and escape with your ult, escape with your third ability. Enemies just cannot catch up to you. Like, they just can't catch up to you. Unless you screw up and waste all of your abilities, they're never gonna catch up to you. Like, if you properly play him, and then you all in at the right moment, the enemies just cannot really do much against blue Kayn. There's really not much to do. They are forced to buy a stasis, because your ult will just shave off like 70% of their health. So literally everyone has to go a stasis. And then even with the stasis, like, they're just not gonna survive you. Like, they have to waste all their resources on you, so your teammates, you know, are gonna have a much easier time taking care of the enemies too. Next up is Aatrox. I don't think Aatrox's jungle is broken tier. I would still classify him as S plus tier though. And that's because I feel like his jungle clear is a little bit meh, and his ganking is weak. Like, sure, he can turret dive good. Don't get me wrong, his turret diving is very good. But besides that, think about it, right? Like, does he really have any reliable CC? The answer is no. Like, if he shows himself, he cannot really instantly dash to the enemy. I mean, take a look at other examples. Kha'Zix, he can jump on the enemy immediately. Pantheon, he can jump and stun the enemy. Lee Sin, he can dash to the enemy and instantly kill them. Evelynn is literally invisible. Kayn can go through walls, and then we get to Aatrox, right? He has a little bit of a dash, he has a little bit of movement speed, good turret diving, but like early on in the game, you're really not gonna be able to do that much. So you're gonna be able to farm a lot, and yeah, it's just like a lot of junglers are better at ganking than him. That's the thing. Next up, we talk about Vi. I think Vi is a little bit of a hidden broken pick as well. She's actually insanely powerful late game somehow. I always kind of thought Vi is not that strong of a late game champion because, you know, she's a single target champion, but they buffed her second ability like a couple months ago. It makes her so tanky, it's ridiculous. Also, front lines, she can shred their armors with her passive. And then her ult lets her go in anywhere and nothing stops her because she's unstoppable, right? So just overall a very good jungler. She has super fast jungle clear as well, so you can farm super fast. Her ganking is really good, but her ganking is like a little bit comparable to Evelynn. You can't gank very frequently because, I mean, actually you kind of can with her first ability, but it's not that powerful of a gank. But with her ultimate, it's pretty much a guaranteed kill when you gank, you know what I mean? So like when you have your ultimate up, which does have a long cooldown in the early game, you're getting a guaranteed gank. Next up is probably going to be one of the most controversial placements in the entire tier list, which is kill jungle. I realized people don't know how to play against kill jungle. Like, I'm seeing it a lot, you know, there's a lot of kill jungle one tricks, and they're not even good players. You know, these kill players are not that good. But the only reason, like, all of them have like a 60+% win rate. And after seeing so much kill jungle, I just realized people don't know what to do against it. People will simply not invade you. I mean, of course, occasionally it's gonna happen. But if you do not get invaded, there is already like a 70% chance you win the game. Because you're gonna farm up and in the late game you beat the enemy. Kill has the absolute most trash ganking until he reaches level 5. Level 5 Kill has good ganking because you or your teammate can dive. You can tank like 2 extra turret shots with the ultimate, and you'll be fine. Like, you'll be able to gank as well with Kill. But with Kill, it's obviously all about farming. Just farm your own jungle, get a gank here and there. Like every 2 minutes, just gank someone with your ultimate, or 1 minute. Sorry, like the cooldown is actually not that high. And you're gonna be fine. You're gonna carry. It's all in your hands. In the late game, you can absolutely 1v9. So that's why I've put him very high up, because it's in your hands to carry the game. And only a few games, especially low elo, you're gonna get invaded. Even in high elo, people just don't understand how they need to invade kill. If they do understand how to invade kill, I would place kill over here, like in the C tier. Because if you get perma invaded by enemies that know what they're doing, you're not gonna be able to play the game as a kill. You're just gonna, literally, like, you're gonna get destroyed. You're gonna get absolutely destroyed. Rengar is okay. Xingqiao with the buff is actually quite strong right now, and like going for like a lethality build with the Trinity Force is very powerful. He does fall off insanely hard late game though, but his early and mid game really compensates for that. You're gonna be super powerful. Another champion, Fiddlesticks. I'm gonna make a... You know what I'm gonna do? If this video reaches 1,000 likes, I'll release a Fiddlesticks video within 3 days, okay? If you guys want to see Fiddlesticks and why I've put him, you know, in the S tier, 1,000 likes. Let me tell you, I have the gameplay ready. I did an ultimate that gave me over 500 first strike gold. Have you ever seen 500 first strike gold? Exactly. So if you want to see that video soon enough, then make sure you give this one a like. It really supports the channel a lot as well, so if you want to do that, it would be very nice. So yeah, Fiddlesticks is basically like Cannon jungle. He has a very fast jungle clear, and he has that all-in ganking as well. But all in it is for real. I mean, he will destroy, he will devour anyone with that ultimate. And late game team fights, the only problem is if you fall behind a little bit, not necessarily that you won't have damage, it's more that you don't have vision control if you fall behind. Because then the enemies are going to have control over your jungle, and if that's the case, you're never going to be able to throw in a good ult. Because throwing in a good ult, you have to do from an angle where the enemy cannot see you. You want to fear them during your ult, and that's how you win teamfights with this champion. So as I said, his ganking is insanely good. He cannot gank very frequently, but the moment he ganks is pretty much a guaranteed kill. And in the late game, his ult is just devastating. It devours the enemy, what can I say? Volibear, he's very tanky. He falls off late game, but his mid game is very strong. He's super tanky, does insane damage mid game as well. But again, late game he does fall off, but he's just overall very good. Yone only recommended for the incredibly skilled Yone players that can properly time their tornadoes with the ganks, because you have to time your tornado on the jungle camps and then you gank with the tornado. That's the only way you can properly play Yone jungle. So like any sort of a beginner player should never ever touch Yone jungle. Master Yone in the lane and then play him in the jungle. Hecarim is good, but feels a little bit underwhelming because of all the nerfs. But again, S tier means he's better than average. He's good. Zed jungle for the skilled player would probably be placed here, but for the average player, here. It's a very rewarding jungler. He has a very fast jungle clear if you do it properly, and very good ganking as well. And late game, he's very good as well. He just has everything really. Like this, he has everything. What can I say? He has everything that you need, but insanely hard to play. That's the one thing, right? He's really, really, really hard to play. Twitch jungle kind of sucks. Although I found a new build, and I will make a new video on it, but he's even weaker against invades than kill somehow. I didn't even know how, but he's so weak. His ganks are good. His late game is good. But like even his ganks, he doesn't really do that much damage anymore during the ganks. His mid game sucks as well. Like in team fights, your ult is not going to do that much damage. But late game is where he starts to get online finally. But he's really not that good. Also, he has this, I think he has the slowest jungle clear of the entire game. Like I genuinely think he may have the slowest jungle clear in the entire game. So taking all of those into consideration, you cannot really power farm to the late game. His ganks are like moderately strong because he really doesn't have much damage. His mid game sucks, and only his late game is like good. But then again, it's not as good as kill, for example, because you do need your teammates to go in and tank, and then you can finally ult. Because if you ult without your teammates, you're gonna get one shot anyways. Anything else that's interesting to talk about? Yeah, Olaf feels like it sucks. Only really playable against like a lot of tanks, like an Alistar or something like that. But besides that, just Olaf kind of sucks. What can I say? He's really not good. Or like you want to pick him against a lot of CC. But even against that, I don't know. He just feels kind of weak. So moving on to the mid lane. I haven't really put anyone in the broken tier here. I feel like Vladimir is the best champion in the mid lane, but not broken tier. And that's because he can actually get bullied. Like Zoe, for example, will destroy Vladimir in lane. A lot of these ranged champions will not give Vladimir the opportunity to farm as much as he should. But the thing is, Vladimir is so strong that even in the mid lane, where he has a lot of matchups that sort of counter him, he's still S+ tier. Because he can just heal up, right? Like if you just play it safe, you're very good against ganks. You can just use your second ability. You can use your first ability to just heal up all the time. It's very, very powerful. Zoe, yeah, Zoe is one of those champions where you feel like if the Zoe player is good, you just have no counter. You just cannot do anything. She's gonna put you asleep and one-shot you. It's ridiculous. Like even in the early mid stages of the game, she's very strong, and the fact that she can pick up flash, ignite, and anything lockets from the ground further contributes towards her power. Like it's so good that she has all these different summoner spells that she can pick up all the time, all these different enchantments that she can pick up from the ground. It's just crazy that a champion can do that. And then of course late game she's gonna one-shot you. Like she's just gonna one-shot you. And she can reach the backline so easily. That's the thing as well. Like the fight hasn't even started and she just one-shotted someone already, you know what I mean? That's what it feels like when you play against Zoe. So if you want to pick up Zoe, now is a good moment. Twisted Fate, also one of the strongest champions in the patch right now. His ult, ridiculously powerful. His level 1, one of the strongest level 1s in the game. His gold gain, he gets so much gold because of his passive. And then that crazy stunning card that he has, the consistent CC that he can provide to his team, while doing so much burst damage as well. And then also sustain damage because you build Nashor's Tooth on him now. What can I say? A complete champion. He's a complete champion. And then if you're against a lot of ranged champions, you can also build accordingly. You get the Magnetic Blaster and you just reach their backline super easily. He does everything. He has everything. He has more than everything, basically. And now we talk about Akali. And in the mid lane, I would put Akali in the top 5 best champions. And reason being is because Akali in the mid lane can very easily deal with these ranged squishies because she can just assassinate them, right? Like if they make one little misstep, you know, you hit them with that third ability, you can just kill them easily. It's crazy how strong Akali is in those situations. Same for Zed in the mid lane, right? Like if they make one misstep, you can kill them so easily. But the thing about Zed is he also has good ganking. But then the difference between Zed and Akali, which made me decide to put Akali above Zed, is in the late game in team fights, Akali is going to do significantly more damage than the Zed. And she's going to have a much easier time assassinating as well, because she has that second ability, which makes her invisible, right? So that's why Akali in the later stages of the game, I would classify as strong, or like just in general, I would classify Akali as a stronger mid laner than Zed. Katarina is very good too. Essentially does the same as Akali, but she can do it more frequently. And if she gets a kill, she can kill everyone, you know what I mean? But the problem is CC. That's the one thing that counters her, right? Like, CC is not going to counter Akali, but CC is going to counter Katarina. If they stop you in your ultimate with anything, you know, with any stun, silence, whatever, root doesn't work, by the way, but everything else does. You know, you're losing like 70% or like 60% of your damage, you know what I mean? So that's the one thing. It is counterable, but in the right draft, Katarina is ridiculously broken. Diana, very strong, very reliable carry. She's more reliable, I would say. Like, probably not as explosive as the other two, but very reliable. She just does so much burst and sustain damage. And she can jump around. She can reach anyone. So she's very reliable. It's like if you get ahead on her, it's a very reliable win. You can just carry games. You know what I mean? Like it's just a reliable champion. I think she's very strong. Lucian mid. The thing about Lucian mid is he can bully so many of these champions in the mid lane. Especially the melees. Like if you're laning against a Khazad, against a Katarina, Akali, even Vladimir, Lucian will just destroy them in the mid lane. It's like a little bit of a pocket pick, I would say, like a secret pick. If you ever see those types of champions in mid lane, pick Lucian and just run them down. Absolutely destroy them with the Kraken Slayer. Kennen mid, S+ tier, even higher than the Baron lane, guys. And that's because, give me a second. While he cannot bully enemies as hard in the mid lane as in the Baron lane, in the mid lane, you can rotate. You can roam around. Just roam to the bot lane, roam to the top lane, and ult. Just ult. Go in and ult. And you're going to be getting kills left and right. Your team is going to get ahead. And in the late game, Kennen late game is very powerful, you know? You're going to do the same thing. You're just going to ult them and do massive damage. Yasuo mid lane is good, simply because tank Yasuo is definitely still meta. Very, very powerful. And just overall, a very strong champion right now. Nothing much else to say about him. Yone can get bullied in the lane, but his all-inning is very good and very safe because you have that third ability, right? Like you can go back whenever you want to, but the enemies cannot stop fighting you whenever they want to. So because that's in your hand, you can, like, if the fight is winning for you, you keep going. If the fight is losing, you just go back, right? So that's the thing that makes Yone such a good laner. Also very good at tower diving because of that third ability, right? With your jungler, very good if you have like an aggressive jungler. J Smith, I am not a fan of J Smith, but I have to admit he's a strong champion. In the right hands, he's a very strong champion. Has very good poking, great all-inning, great anti-ganking as well with his third ability, the melee one, you know, which slaps the enemies with his hammer. And in the late game even, he's like not that bad. Like his poking is super good late game, and his engaging is pretty good in the late game too. So overall, he's just a good champion. Lux mid lane, you know, global ult, just overall very good. It's just nice. I mean, it's just nice. It's nothing special, I would say. It's just pretty good. I don't want to talk too much about Lux because it's kind of a boring champion. Kai'Sa mid still works very well. You know, if If you're like a Kai'Sa one trick that always plays ADC, but then you got mid lane, just pick her in the mid lane. It's literally just as strong. Well, not as strong as the ADC, but it's insanely powerful. Ahri is okay. I feel like she's not that strong. She's just okay. She's just fine, better than average, I would say. But yeah, if you get like a nice ult, if you're ahead, she's very broken. Okay, but if you're not ahead, it's a little bit rough because you have to find the right target and charm that target and assassinate that target. If you're unable to do that, she's gonna be useless. So it's very high risk if you're not ahead. If you're ahead again, you're gonna be able to one-shot people even without your charm. So that's the thing with Ahri. But if you play Ahri, you should be ahead. You know what I mean? Like, she's one of the best gankers in the game because she can shove the wave super fast and just gank lanes with a charm. Khazrin, complete opposite, not a good ganker, but he skills. This guy can absolutely 1v9 late game. You just play your lane safely and you skill to the late game. Like, you just have to reach level 5. Reach level 5 and you can actually play the game. Because then you can dash. Whether the enemy goes on you, you can dash behind your turret. Whether you want to dive them, you can dash to them. You know what I mean? So just get to level 5 safely. Try to not die before that. And you're going to have a pretty high success rate at carrying games with that. Orianna is fine, Brand is fine, Swain is actually very powerful, but did I forget? I think I forgot to move him in the support list. I need to be reminded about that one. But mid lane, I wouldn't classify him as S plus tier or high S tier because he can get bullied in lane. And it's very hard to stack your passive in mid lane because often you're going to be against those ranged champions. And, you know, it's really hard to, like, consistently land your third ability on, like, a Vladimir or a Twisted Fate or anything like that. It's really, really hard because, yeah, they're just gonna dodge it, right? They're not gonna give you free hits. Anyway, interesting I need to talk about, Ezreal. This is AP Ezreal, by the way, that's sitting in the A tier. I may have to make another video on him. I made an AP Ezreal video recently. In case some of you guys missed it, just look up HellsDevil AP Ezreal and you'll find it. Very strong, actually. Like, I'm seeing a lot of people copy that build still to this day. Because it's just so strong. So yeah. Let's see. Which one should I... Vex sucks, by the way. I don't know. Vex is just weak. Annie is weak. Veigar feels weak. All of these champions just kind of feel weak in the mid lane. I tried Sona mid as well. Very, very weak. Yeah, just weak. Seraphine, you can only pick into melee champions. Never pick her otherwise. Into melee champions, she would classify as A tier. But in general, she's C tier. Now on to the Dragon Lane. And here we have another beloved broken tier champion, which is still Kai'Sa. Still. And I have a new Kai'Sa video because I have a new build as well. Since some stuff got changed. I don't want to spoil it, but some stuff got changed. I found a new broken build on her. Besides her standard build, which is already broken. Don't get me wrong, like AP Kai'Sa is already broken. But I found another build on her, which is broken in a different scenario. So I have even more Kai'Sa stuff. Like, she's far into the broken tier. It's not even close. Like, she's very deep into the broken tier. Even if she gets like a little nerf, she's probably still going to be in the broken tier. That's what I think about Kai'Sa. Next up we got Ezreal, who I think is, besides Kai'Sa, the strongest ADC in the skilled player's hands. And I feel like if you just play a decent amount of Ezreal, you're gonna be pretty skilled. I'm gonna have an Ezreal video with the top 1 player of NA for you guys very soon for this reason. Because Ezreal is just an insanely strong champion. But you have to know what to do on him. Like, if you don't really know what to do, if you're just, trying to poke the enemy and besides that not really doing much, he's not gonna be strong. He's gonna be weak. He's gonna be useless. But if you know what you're doing, if you've truly mastered this champion, then he's gonna be S plus tier. Even close to the broken tier, but not quite broken tier. I have a ton of Ezreal videos. I'm actually really good at Ezreal as well. And I'm gonna make a video with like an even better Ezreal very soon. So you guys have more than enough content to learn this champion and get good at him. Another champion that you have more than enough content for is Jhin. My boy Jhin is still chilling in the S plus tier. Nothing, nothing too crazy. Just S plus tier and pretty high up as well. He's just very strong. Like, what can I say? He's just very strong. Works very well. He has everything really, like he has everything you need. He can even chunk down tanks, That used to always be his problem. But the moment they changed his passive, they even nerfed his passive now, by the way. But the moment they changed his passive, in the late game, he can take care of tanks as well now. So he's just a very, very strong champion. Varus got buffed. This is lethality Varus, by the way. You don't really want to play AP Varus. AP Varus kind of sucks right now. But if we're talking lethality variance, he's super strong right now. I need to make a video on him actually. He's very, very strong. I even played him a couple games. Ridiculously powerful. Like, ridiculously powerful. He does so much poking damage. And even his second ability got buffed. It does so much damage. It's just a very strong ADC right now. Xayah is another one which I think is very powerful right now. But I only really recommend you to play Xayah with an enchanter. You don't want to pick Xayah with like an engaged support, because that's not how Xayah works. You want to pick it with like a Lulu, a Yuumi, Sona, Soraka, something like that. Because like then the enemies are going to try to kill her, chase her down, and she's going to root them in their path and do a ton of damage. Play to her powers basically. Tristan is another one that's very powerful. Just get through the early game, get to level 5, get your range up, and you're going to be able to carry games like crazy. She has so much damage output. Incredible attack speed as well with that first ability. Very, very good turret taking power even early on in the game. And just overall a nice champion. She is very safe as well. She can jump away with her second ability. And it buffers. So like if you get hooked and you've used your second ability at the exact moment, you're still going to be able to jump away. But be aware, during your jump, they can still pull you back. So like a Thresh with his third ability, if he pulls you exactly during the jump, so not at the beginning, but during the jump, he's gonna pull you right back. He's gonna pull your ass right back and kill you. Next up is Caitlyn. Very good early game bullying. Mid game she sucks, but late game she's very strong again. Nothing else to say about Caitlyn, just overall a good champion. Sivir, very good. She did get nerfed, but she's still very, very powerful. Definitely S tier. I would say almost S plus tier, but not quite S plus tier. I feel like you do have to play her with with an enchanter as well. With an engaging support, she's not very good. But with an enchanter, she's going to be very, very good. Lucian, he's very strong, but I feel like he's not going to be that strong in the Dragon lane. For the simple reason that he has such low range. He's going to get bullied by a lot of the, mages, by a lot of the other ADCs, because they just have more range than him. So he's really going to be getting bullied and not going to be able to proc his Kraken Slayer as often and just bully the enemy like he can in the mid lane. Jinx is good. We all know Jinx is a crazy champion. Just overall a good champion. But again, Enchanter. You really want to pick her with that Enchanter. She does work with an engaging support as well. But of course, she's way better with an Enchanter. But yeah, she's just good. Nothing else to say about it. She's good. Samira is a pocket pick. Like, you only want to pick her like 5% of your games where you're not against a lot of stuns. If that's the case, you pick Samira and you carry the game. Literally, like, in that case, she's like S plus T. She would be placed here. But of course, 95% of your games are gonna have, reliable CC champions that can easily cancel your ult. But in those 5% that it's not the case, you pick Samira and you just carry the game. You just destroy them with that ultimate and they just can't do anything about it. Zeri is overall a good pick. Zeri is actually my highest win rate ADC somehow. Just overall a very, very good pick. Very nice in the early game. You can just bully them with your first ability. Late game she can absolutely 1v9. She has good escaping in a team fight, which is her third ability, and very good team fight damage, which is her ultimate, which allows you to just do damage to everyone. So overall, just a very strong champion. And also she counters the meta, which is all of these stupid enchanter supports that give shields, like the Janna, like the Sona, and she will just steal that shield for herself and get even more movement speed. So very, very strong champion. Next time we get to the to the champions that are a little bit weaker. Nyla can 1v9 late game, but she gets bullied early game. That's the only thing to say about her. Like, she will get bullied early game, but if you get through the early game, you can 1v9 late game. Same story for Vayne, but not quite as strong as Nyla. Nyla can destroy late game way harder than Vayne. Unless you're against like a ton of tanks, then Vayne would be better, but Vayne is not in a very good spot right now. Other champions that are not in a very good spot. I mean, Akshan, you don't really want to pick him ADC, but yeah. Senna carry is not that strong of a carry. Ashe ADC absolutely sucks. Misfortune sucks even more. What a useless ADC. And I think Draven is such a horrible pick right now. Again, this is solo queue. Remember, if we're talking duo queue, Draven would be ranked here. I would put him here in duo queue. But solo queue, all the way down into the D tier. Like, playing him with a random support. If your support is good, sure, you'll do fine. Even with a good support, it's a little bit hard to truly snowball your lead with Draven and 1v9 the game. But if you fall behind, it's game over. If you have a bad support, it's just game over. So like, why would you take that risk with Draven right now? He's just so weak. So weak in solo queue especially. Woohoo! What a surprise. Oh my god, we have Yuumi in the broken tier. Wow. Look at that. Yeah, I don't even want to talk about Yumi. And you know what? I'm not. I don't even want to talk about Lulu either. And you know what? I'm not. Nah, I mean, it's obvious, right? Like, these are the strongest enchantment champions. These are the strongest buffing champions. Even in solo queue broken, because you can simply focus on the champion of your team that's doing the best. Like, for example, if you have a jungle Jax, and like your ADC is useless, your mid is useless, and your top is useless, but let's say your Jax is very good in the jungle, you simply buff the Jax all the time, and he may be able to carry the game, right? Like, that's the idea of these two champions. Next up, we got... Wait, I broke my keyboard. What the hell? I actually broke my keyboard. Look, this is the tab key. Oh, I cannot click on the tab. Oh, there we go. This is the tab key. Let me just put the tab key right back in. There we go. Yeah, Soraka is Soraka. There are counters to her, you know, anti-heal, engagement, and stuff like that. But it's just so dumb, the dumb healing that she provides. It's just stupid. What can I say? Pyke, you know, Pyke is Pyke. Pyke is like one of the best engaging supports, and he's like an assassin support as well. He can literally carry the game from the support role. It's pretty crazy. Like, it's actually pretty crazy. He's especially good with like poking champions. If you're playing with like an Orianna mid lane, in the late game you guys are going to be a monster, because Orianna will poke them down. You will finish them off with your ultimate, right? So you kind of want to pay attention to that kind of stuff when you pick Pyke. Also, you don't really want to pick Pyke into champions that can dodge your third ability easily. Like Lucian, you never want to pick Pyke into a Lucian, because he can just dodge your stuff easily, right? Next up is Karma. Does so much damage. Karma can absolutely carry the game as a support as well. She just does so much damage with that first ability. Her third ability, shielding, is very good. Her laning is very strong. Her ganking is strong. And in the late game, she's insanely strong too, because of her ultimate first ability, Meteor combo. You can just destroy enemies with Karma. Thresh feels a little bit underwhelming right now, but just, you know, overall a fine champion. One of my secret pocket picks again, Morgana support. I've always said Morgana support, one of the strongest supports in the game. You know, you have a black shield, you have one of the best roots in the game, you know, one of the highest CC durations in the game. You have your second ability, which is constant DPS in the late game, and it slows the enemies as well if you go for Right Eye Scepter, which is a core item. Watch my Morgana support videos and you'll know what I'm talking about. Most games you're gonna end up doing the most damage and just carry the game. Ridiculously strong. Like, besides Sona, Morgana used to be my pocket pick, basically. Talking about Sona, let me tell you guys a funny thing. First of all, I saw a lot of comments talking about Glacial Augment, and while Glacial Augment is a good rune on Sona, first of all, let me explain to you why this is not even remotely close to the old Sona. First of all, the exhaust is much less. It's only like 20% or something. I don't know. I don't even know if it's skills, but it's a much lower exhaust. I know it's team-wide, but secondly, if you exhaust, you know, if you Glacial Augment a Katarina, what is she gonna do? She's gonna dash out of it and ult your team and nuke you anyways. You know what I mean? You're gonna Glacial Augment an Irelia. What is gonna happen? What do you think is gonna happen? You think Irelia is gonna stay in your icy area? Of course not. She's gonna dash on you and destroy you. You're gonna Glacial Augment whoever the hell you think. An Aatrox, you think your Glacial Augment is gonna stop Aatrox? The answer is no. Secondly, Glacial Augment has like a 20-second cooldown. It has, I don't know exactly how long, but it has a cooldown. The old exhaust did not have a cooldown. Third of all, they nerfed Sona's shielding. You have to go ARI. If you want to play proper support Sona, Glacial Augment ain't gonna save the game for you guys. It's not. I mean, you can take the word of anyone, or you can take my word. I have a 70% win rate on Sona. Trust me that I can tell you that I know how Sona works and I know what the best thing would be for Sona. I'm not saying it's bad. Look, I'm not saying Glacial Augment is bad. Glacial Augment would be good against a comp that cannot really dash out of your Glacial Augment when you play Sona. Because I want to remind you guys, Sona's stun on her passive is only a half a second. So they can just dash right out of your Glacial Augment if they have dashes, which they likely will. You know, like Ahri as well, she dashes out. Akali, which, you know, you used to be able to just exhaust with your passive and she couldn't do anything anymore. She ain't gonna be stopped by your Glacial Augment, guys. It's just not gonna happen. I know you guys, I know you guys may think that, like Diana. You think Diana's gonna dash out of it. It doesn't really work, guys. It just doesn't really work. And then you need that shielding from the ARI, or you need the poking. That just helps you a lot more in the earlier stages of the game. Just a quick explanation on, you know, like I saw way too many people that were convinced that Glacial Augment is the answer. It's not the answer. But then you may be wondering, I've put Sona higher up in the tier list than my previous tier list. What the hell is happening, right? Like, what the hell is... why am I putting Sona... After all this complaining that they changed her passive, she's actually in the S tier now. Let me explain. The old Sona, okay, as much as I made videos on her, people didn't know how to play her. I would say 90% of the Sona players sucked. Maybe even 95. They were like, you know, they just get one shot all the time. They just feel lost in the game. They feel like it's just a bot that heals. Back then, that was not the case. The exhaust passive was the key. Properly using that, it made her, for me, she was broken tier. Like for me, she was right here. But I'm not gonna put her here just because that's the case for me. I've never had a 70% win rate on a champion before. But Sona, I easily had a 70% win rate. But now, for the people that had truly mastered Sona, you know, with that 70% win rate, that's very easy to maintain with the old Sona. You're never gonna get a 70% win rate anymore now. However, you can still get like a 55 to 60% win rate. And now, the beginner Sona player is actually going to be able to get that type of win rate now. Because she's stronger for your average Joe Sona player, right? And that's why, like, I saw so many people commenting like, new Sona is stronger. You know, I don't know what you're talking about. This Sona is so much better. Even people in Challenger saying the new Sona is better. But they just don't get it. They didn't get it. So that's why, like, I thought about it and I was like, okay, for, you know, the player that didn't really get how Sona worked, they didn't really fully understand Sona, for them, Sona is going to be better. So, you know, if Sona is going to be better for 95% of the player base, she's going to be higher up in my tier list. You know what I mean? Because, like, I can try to tell you guys, yes, the old Sona, exhaust, so good. But if people just don't really fully understand how to properly position yourself with the old Sona, how to play it, and everything like that, she's, you know, that's why I had put her in the A tier. Because, like, people just didn't know. People just didn't get it. But now, it's so much easier to play Sona. So, like, even if you only have, like, 3 games on Sona, you can just absolutely carry games with her. With the stun, she has a much stronger early game. You know, you can be a lot more valuable to your team in the early game. You don't need to play safe anymore. In the late game, she's gonna be weaker, okay. But, like, you are so much stronger early and mid game. So, and your ult is, that's one thing that we all agree on. The ult is ridiculously powerful right now. Sona's ult is very, very strong right now. So, you know, because of that, I've put Sona in the S tier. And even if you master Sona, the stun could be quite useful. You know, if you're playing against a Katarina or a Samira, you can cancel their ultimates with the stun. So in those particular situations, you know, the stun can be good just to cancel a bit. Or like a Nunu, you can cancel his ultimate. But the stun is not even close to reliable enough to stop the enemies from killing your team. You guys need to remember, she used to have a 3-second exhaust. In the late game, it would reduce their damage by 65%. 65 for 3 seconds. That's the old Sona, guys. I'm reminding you for the people that seem to forget. Now she has a half a second stun. And her abilities will go on half a second cooldown whenever you cast another ability. That's another thing they added to Sona. Back in the days, you could spam her abilities. You could give your team movement speed, shield, and a buffed attack in the matter of half a second. Now it's gonna take you 2 seconds. Half a second, 2 seconds. This is new Sona, 2 seconds. This is also automatically gonna be adding 1.5 seconds to all of your cooldowns. A lot of you guys are not gonna understand what I'm talking about. But yet again, I'm speaking to that 5% of the Sona players that knows what I'm talking about, that knows that back in the days, with the Staff of Flowing Water, you could spam your abilities like crazy. Constant buffs to your teammates. Now you cannot do that anymore. And the buffs are not quite as strong anymore. But then again, Sona is a whole lot easier to play now. So just, you know, just answering to some of the smartasses out there that think they can teach me how to play Sona. I am the ultimate Sona player, guys. Come on, I don't say that about many champions, but if someone knows how to play Sona, if someone knows that Sona got weaker, it's gonna be me. You know, I don't want to sound like, you know, I don't want to sound like a smartass or anything like that, because of course I'm always open to learning stuff, and I'm very appreciative of you guys actually bringing that idea. But I'm talking to the people that were actually trying to act like smartass. I was like, you're wrong. It's so bad. I saw this video from this other person. He had this, and it's just, you know, you just cannot play Sona. It's not true, guys. It's just not true. With a lot of champions, you can counter me like that. Because of course, you know, I'm not gonna know everything, obviously. And I always take this advice, but you're not gonna mess with my intelligence on Sona, guys. That's not gonna happen. I just have to put these people in their place. You know what I mean? So that was my long story about Sona. So I think she's stronger for the average player. But in general, not in general, the actual champion got significantly weaker. But then again, it doesn't matter because not a lot of people are gonna feel this. Only the minority of the people of the Sona gang. Just putting that out there. Just putting that out there. So next up we talk about Janna. I mean, I don't even know. Oh, Swain. That was the one. Swain support, guys. Swain support is so strong. He's so powerful. Not as plus tier, but super powerful. They buffed his passive. He gets a whole lot more health now. And it's much easier to land your abilities in the dragon lane. It's much easier to play him in the dragon lane right now. Because you can just land your abilities and you're gonna get 25% more health from the passive. They buffed it from 12 health per hit to 16. It's actually 33% even. 33.3%. So you can just stack up. I had a game where I had like 1500 extra health from his passive. I'm not even joking with you guys. That's an unbelievable amount. In the late game I had like 5000 HP. And you can see how that makes him unkillable. You know, his ultimate combined with a Rylai Scepter and getting some tank items, you're gonna be unkillable with him in the support role. Other champions, you know, full AP Malphite, a bit of an underrated support as well. Definitely works very well for like all-inning compositions. Let's say you have a Katarina in the mid lane, and you are support, and you see that the enemies are pretty squishy. A very good pick would be AP Malphite support. In the lane, you can just bully the enemy and stuff like that, nothing too major. But then in the later stages of the game, you're just gonna all-in them together with your Katarina or Master Yi or whatever like that. Like all-inning champions, AP Malphite support would be insane. Senna support, very, very good as well. Just nice, you know, she's kind of nice. If you fall behind, she's gonna be quite weak. But overall, just a very nice champion. Pantheon support, very aggressive. He's so strong that he even works in the support role. And anything else, I don't really want to talk about too much. I'm gonna go ahead and end the video right here. I really hope you enjoyed this video. And I want to remind you guys, by the way, to download Enlisted through my link in the description. You're gonna get a lot of free stuff, including premium vehicles and stuff like that. It's a very cool game. Link in the description. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next Wild Rift video. Bye bye.